I'm Joe Fryer.
We're going to start a new week this morning with the race for the White House and just over 3 weeks to go until Election Day.
It is going to be a busy week ahead for the candidates on the campaign trail. Former President Trump is set to hold a town hall tonight in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Over the weekend, he held events with supporters in California and Arizona. As for Vice President Harris, she'll also be in Pennsylvania today for a campaign rally. Yesterday, Harris was in North Carolina. Both candidates starting to make their closing arguments to voters.
If Kamala gets 4 more years, the entire country will be turned into a migrant camp, and that's what's happening. When I win on November 5th, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins.
Why does his staff want him to hide away? One must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America?
Meanwhile, the Secret Service and FBI are investigating after a man with guns in his car was arrested on Saturday after being stopped at a checkpoint near Mr. Trump's rally in Coachella, California. A federal law enforcement official says there's no indication at this time this was an attempt to assassinate the former president.
We have team coverage ahead this hour, including the latest national NBC News poll that shows just how tight this race remains as we enter the final weeks of the campaign. But let's begin with NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns, who's covering the Trump campaign, and NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Good morning to both of you. Dasha, just walk us through what happened outside former President Trump's event in Coachella Saturday. What more do we know about this incident?
Yeah, so Joe, Savannah, a man was stopped at a security checkpoint inside of the security perimeter when a sheriff's deputy noticed that his vehicle was disheveled and had an obviously fake license plate. Then authorities found 2 unregistered firearms, a shotgun and a loaded handgun, and multiple boxes of ammunition. He was arrested by local authorities and then released, but the FBI and the Secret Service is looking into the incident. But as you said, right now, there's no indication that this was another assassination attempt, guys.
Monica, let's bring you in here and talk about the Harris campaign. So she rallied with supporters yesterday in North Carolina, where she continues to call out her rival. We just played a little bit of that. What's been her message to voters?
Yeah, and there was a clear strategy yesterday, and we saw, Joe, in terms of that sort of taunting and trying to really provoke former President Trump, going after him over a couple of things in the last couple of days and weeks. Here's a little more of what the vice president had to say, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
And he's not being transparent with the voters. He's not being transparent. So check this out. He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it. He is unwilling to do a 60 Minutes interview. Like every other major party candidate has done for more than half a century.
You see there the vice president specifically referencing the fact that her official military physician through the office of the vice president released her medical records, a report on Saturday. That's something that now they're trying to put pressure on former President Trump to do. His team says that he released them last year, but they haven't released anything detailed, certainly since he left office. And then on that other point of another debate or the 60 Minutes interview, I'm told that that kind of messaging will continue, where the VP is turning up the temperature a little bit on some of that more negative messaging in these final weeks, because they know there's a limited runway, and she's trying to see how he might respond. And again, you saw her call him weak and unstable. She's going to be leaning into that a little bit more, too, this week, guys.
So, Dasha, former President Trump received an endorsement yesterday at his rally in Arizona. That's a state that was part of President Joe Biden's path to victory, one both candidates want to win on Election Day. This is part of a key issue for the former president. So who's backing him?
Yeah, immigration, Joe. That is a key focus area for the former president. He knows that's where he has some strength with voters, and he did get the endorsement of the National Border Patrol Council. Here's their president.
The untold millions of people, unvetted, who she has allowed into this country that are committing murders, rapes, robberies, burglaries, and every other crime will continue to put our country in peril. Only one man can fix that. That is Donald J. Trump.
And Joe, Savannah, the former president's rhetoric on immigration continues to take a darker and darker tone at these rallies. He's painting a pretty grim picture under the administration of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. That is key to his strategy, and we're likely to hear more and more of that, guys.
And Monica, both Vice President Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, they're campaigning in battleground states this week. Where's their focus? Is there one battleground state more important than the others for them?
Well, if you look at the next 5 days, you really do see this sort of blue wall battleground blitz. You're going to see the vice president going to Pennsylvania twice in the span of 3 days. She'll be in Erie later today. Then she'll also be in Michigan twice this week, in addition to being in Wisconsin. And her running mate, as you mentioned, Governor Walz, will also be crisscrossing some of those really important states. And then she will finish by going to Georgia on Saturday. So really hitting all of them in the last week or so when you look at her swing out west and where she was campaigning. They're going to basically be doing that every single day, I'm told, until Election Day. They are not really going to leave a day now where there is no travel or where there are just internal meetings. This is the final sprint that we realize. And then one other thing is that the vice president is really going to be working this week to try to earn the support of Black men. That's a key focus of her events today in Pennsylvania and tomorrow in Detroit, Michigan. Guys.
That blue wall was key to Democrats' victory in 2020. Monica, Dasha, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Let's now bring in NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray for a closer look at this new national NBC News poll. It shows that former President Trump and Vice President Harris, they are in a dead heat with just over 3 weeks until Election Day. Take a look at those numbers. Mark, thanks for joining us. Good to have you here. So just a month ago, Harris was leading Trump, but still within the margin of error. But now this is showing this deadlock. What's going on? How did we get here? What do you make of these numbers?
The timing is everything, Savannah, and it's important to note that our September poll came out right after that debate where it seemed that Harris ended up getting the better of Donald Trump in that showdown. Also, when our poll came out, the news environment was all about Springfield, Ohio, discussion about cats and dogs, very damaging to Donald Trump. But our poll shows that we end up having this deadlock mainly because Republican voters have come back home, particularly the Republican voters who are kind of squishy, non-MAGA Republicans who got turned off from the debate performance in that news cycle from September and are now backing him. That's why Trump's vote share goes from 44% in September to 48% now.
So, Mark, despite losing her lead, there is one aspect of this poll that could benefit Harris. That's the question of which issues actually motivate voters the most. Talk more about what we're seeing here.
Yeah, Joe, normally when we ask the kind of question, what is your top concern from this issue, when our poll and other polls ask it, it's cost of living, the economy that end up topping the list. But our poll asked a different question this month, and that is there one issue that so motivates you, you would vote for or against a candidate solely on that issue? Abortion comes out on top. Then it's immigration, followed by democracy and constitutional rights, then the cost of living. And, Joe, I think that snapshot is really important because while most voters end up saying, hey, the economy, cost of living is my top concern, when you ask them what really motivates you, that's where we see abortion popping, particularly among younger voters, female voters. And so Democrats are hoping that that issue really drives a lot of their key voters to the polls.
It's so interesting, too, Mark, just to hear that the change in that question, the way it's asked, reveals something like that we might not otherwise have known. Also, the gender gap. This poll is pretty revealing there. How divided are men and women on the candidates right now?
We're showing a 30-point gender gap. Donald Trump having a 16-point lead among male voters. Kamala Harris with a 14-point lead among women. Normally when we look back at the exit polls in 2016 and 2020, the gender gap was around 20 points or so. If this ends up holding, that we end up having somewhere along the lines of a 30-point gender gap, this might be one of the defining storylines of this election season. So we'll be having to look at the exit polls on Election Day and the day after to see if that plays out. But this could be one of the very big storylines in November.
All right, Mark Murray, thank you as always.
Power is still out for hundreds of thousands of people in Florida this morning as the state is still cleaning up after two major hurricanes. Even 5 days after Milton's landfall, rescue teams are out helping people who are trapped by floodwaters. And as others start to return home, the state is now facing a gas crisis. NBC News correspondent Guad Venegas has the latest.
A slow-motion disaster unfolding in Florida. Days after Hurricane Milton slammed the state, runoff from heavy rainfall now making its way into rivers, flooding inland communities.
You see this typical 4-foot fence here. The water's almost up to the top of it.
Rescue crews evacuating hundreds of residents across 3 counties in the Tampa Bay area.
We do get a lot of rescues with people that they get trapped, they're on oxygen, or they're diabetic, they can't get their insulin.
Critical infrastructure also affected. This pediatrician walking through a flooded parking lot to inspect his clinic.
We have vaccine for children, and it has to hold a certain temperature. We have a fridge. It can hold the temperature for like almost a week.
Elsewhere, residents returning home after the initial storm passed through, facing a lengthy cleanup.
We don't worry about rain, and we don't worry about wind damage, but tidal surge, that's a whole different animal.
Whoa. Crews working around the clock to repair the damage and restore electricity. Gas shortages across the region adding to the misery.
When you have power out at gas stations, you can't pump fuel. When you have ports that are interrupted, they don't get the shipments in as much.
The state announcing they have 1 million gallons of gasoline to help with the shortage and opening distribution centers for people who need fuel.
So how long have you been here?
About an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. The state troopers are down there blocking off intersections, and it's a 10-gallon limit per car. But it's better than nothing.
Residents making do as the storm's impact continues to be felt.
Our thanks to Guad Venegas for that update. President Biden also visited Florida yesterday, where he announced more than $600 million in funding to restore and upgrade that state's power grid.
Let's stay with weather now and get a check on what's ahead across the country.
Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us now with the Monday forecast. Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And good news, we're looking really good this week. Nice and quiet for the majority of us. Starting out the work week, nice and quiet. We have a few problem spots, but for the most part, we have high pressure in control on this Monday, and that's bringing us quiet weather, nice weather, lots of sunshine for many of us. Taking a look at satellite radar, though, you could see some showers stretching from the upper Midwest throughout parts of the Great Lakes, the interior parts of the Northeast, into New England, even noticing a little blue popping in there. That's higher elevation snow, so mountain snow. Could see some accumulating snow, especially in portions of northern New England. So we're taking that turn to fall, and we're also seeing some pockets of heavier rain there. Now, the Pacific Northwest, we're going to see a series of fronts moving through. That's going to bring some showers to parts of Washington, also Oregon, and then especially eventually into the Intermountain West. You could see some showers showing up in the Four Corners as well. Otherwise, we are looking really quiet, and in the Southeast, especially Florida, we need that much-needed break. Lots of sunshine in Florida as we go throughout the rest of the day, but notice that long stretching cold front, and stretches from New England all the way down to the south central states, the Gulf Coast states. But we're going to be dry on the tail end of this cold front. We will see those storms, though, the showers and snow showers in parts of New England. Cooler air back behind this front. We're looking at temperatures pretty chilly this morning in parts of the northern plains. I'll show you those in just a minute because we're right near the freezing mark, if not below the freezing marks in some of those spots. So you want to dress those kids warmly this morning. Get yourself warm too as you head out the door. We're looking at sunshine throughout the central and southern states, and the south really warm. It feels like summer in parts of the desert Southwest. We're going to break records most likely once again in Phoenix as we kind of soar into the triple digits. Above average temperatures in Wyoming, Montana. And then there's that front that's moving into portions of the Pacific Northwest. Let's talk about those showers in the Northeast. We're going to see widely scattered showers. We could see pockets of heavier downpours, but that's where you're seeing the reds, the oranges, the yellows. It's going to be breezy, too. Those winds are really going to gust. We're going to see that low really deepen off the New England coast and then eventually into Canada. So we're going to see those winds blowing. It's going to be chilly. Our temperatures aren't going to rise very far from here. Tomorrow, same story. Gloomy with the clouds in place. Still some widely scattered showers just kind of spinning around that low. And we are looking at those winds gusting up to 30 miles per hour. So that's a story in the Northeast. Not a whole lot of rain, not a whole lot of snow, but still enough to make your Monday morning a little bit gloomy. And again, along the Great Lakes, we could see some lake effect snow showers, but mainly lower elevation rain showers. Frosty mornings, we have freeze and frost warnings. We have a freeze watch in some parts of Pennsylvania. That goes into effect tonight into Tuesday morning. But we're looking at that hot pink color. That's your freeze warning. We have a frost advisory as well in that light pink color. 14 million people impacted by this really chilly morning. Again, temperatures at or below freezing. We're in the 30s below freezing in Bismarck, 30s in Rapid City, 45 in Denver, 32 in Grand Isle. And Minneapolis, you were looking at 35 degrees. So the West stays warm. We're kind of divided here. We have a front that dips down to portions of the Tennessee Valley. So it's kind of letting that cold Canadian air in. It's that October cool, 51 today in Green Bay, 57 in Cincinnati. That's well below normal for this time of year, 12 degrees below what is expected for this time of year. But notice all that warm off to the south and to portions of the Pacific Northwest as well. We're looking at San Antonio, 98 degrees today. So this is all about location. Some warm, some cool. Back to you guys.
So maybe snow in some areas, 98 degrees in others.
Yeah.
All right. Michelle, thank you.
Exactly. Thanks.
We turn now to the latest in the Middle East. The Israeli military says a Hezbollah drone attack on an army base in central Israel killed 4 soldiers and severely injured dozens of others on Sunday.
These attacks were the deadliest strikes by the militant group since Israel launched its ground invasion of Lebanon about 2 weeks ago now. Hezbollah called the attack retaliation for Israeli strikes on the Lebanese capital on Thursday that killed 22 people.
NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now for more on this. Megan, good morning. So we know with Israel's advanced air defense systems, it's rare for so many people to be injured by a drone or a missile strike. Why did yesterday's attack by Hezbollah lead to so many casualties?
Well, Joe, good morning. And, it's a good question. And at this point, it appears as though Israel themselves can't even answer that. Israel's Minister of Defense said today that they must investigate and study the details of this attack and that they have to swiftly implement lessons learned. Now, according to the IDF, this attack happened without any warning and that they need to provide better protection. Here's some more context coming from Hezbollah. They released a statement which essentially says that they knew how to evade detection. They said that they launched a barrage of missiles to engage Israel's air defense system, but at the same time, they launched swarms of drones. They went on to say that these drones were able to successfully reach their target without detection, and we saw the aftermath of that play out. Guys.
Megan, Hezbollah's deadly strike in Israel, it came the same day that the U.S. announced it would send a new air defense system to Israel and that it would also send troops needed to operate it. Is the U.S. being drawn deeper into this conflict?
Well, look, we can certainly speak to the significance of the THAAD being sent. We know the mission here is to help bolster Israel's air defense following Iran's attacks, the latest being on October 1st. Significant because the THAAD can defend against long, medium, and short ballistic missiles. Now, U.S. officials have been concerned about Hezbollah's short-range system being able to penetrate Israeli defenses, but it's also important to note here that, this isn't the first time that we've seen a THAAD battery. The U.S. deployed one at the start of the war. But again, nevertheless, still a significant development.
And Megan, in addition to what's happening with Hezbollah in Lebanon, Israel continues to attack Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Tell us more about the latest on that front in the war.
That's right. So according to Palestinian health officials, at least 10 people were killed, dozens of others injured today after an Israeli strike on a food distribution center in northern Gaza. Medics are reporting that among those killed, women and children. This, of course, follows that deadly strike that we saw yesterday, again in northern Gaza, this time at a school where displaced people were sheltering. We know at least 20 people were killed, again, including kids. Guys.
All right. Megan Fitzgerald. Megan, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.